Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our show. This is the Richard Logsdon Show. I'm Richard Logsdon. We're going to do a little different format today. Normally I would do the interviewing, and normally they would be the guest. But they're going to have their own show here in a few weeks, and they wanted to get their feet wet by coming on mine. Now, this is George Verl, and this is Debbie Babbitt.
Mine are already cold.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
We're happy to be here.
And it's really good to have the two of you on the show.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, since you're interviewing me, I'll turn it over to you.
Whoa.
Well, thanks. I appreciate you giving us this opportunity to come and do this. And you look good. You just
thank
so
you.
happy. It's
Thank
like
you.
You have a lot to
that
tell
hat
us, huh?
you got on your head, too.
Yeah.
That's
Very-
a new hat?
It's a very patriotic hat. I bought this in Oregon, one of the most liberal states in the Union.
Is that so?
Yes.
How so?
Well, they go Democratic. It looks like they're going to go for Obama.
They are mostly Democratic then?
Yes.
And I didn't know that. Did you know that?
No, never knew that.
Well,
But there are a few redneck, truck stops and stuff like that up there, and that's where I bought this.
hey, no, don't get too down on those rednecks. I really like those rednecks. They're the heart of this country. They're the grassroots of this country, like you. We were listening to your show last week, your introductory show.
Yes.
And I think what hit me or touched me the most was the grassroots of where you really came from. Did you really honestly live in the little log cabin with the dirt floor?
I really honestly did. And I don't remember it because that was during the first year of my life.
I find that hard to believe. You know.
Well, we did. I'm sorry. I got pictures to prove it.
Dirt floor.
Yes.
So
yes.
you were crawling around in the dirt, huh? You were playing.
I was messing in the dirt. That is right. And there's, there are pictures of me and my father and my mother outside of that to show that we were there, in fact. And like I said, we were only there a couple of months, and after that we moved into various shacks around the county, and they all had...
They called shacks, huh?
Oh, yeah, they're shacks. Nobody really called them that because just about everybody in that area lived in a shack, But anyway...
Did you live in a shack?
No.
I didn't
Oh,
live in
never
a shack.
did. Never did. You guys missed out on an experience in life. They'd have holes in the floor,
Well, I assume there's no bathroom in one of those.
Now, wait a minute. I want to hear about the holes. What about the holes?
Oh, you could stand there in the living room and look down through the hole in the floor and see the ground beneath.
Hey, but did you have the old broom? You could just sweep it right down into the holes. You wouldn't have to worry about having a dustpan.
Richard, what about the bathroom? What was that?
That was outside,
Oh.
at the other end of the yard, with a Sears catalog in it.
Oh, that's where that story of the Sears catalog
That's
came.
exactly right. And and there was no indoor plumbing at all, and no indoor central heating. We had a kerosene stove in the living room. And in the winter, since we got our water out of the well, and by the way, it was not a fancy well. It wasn't one with a pump. It's one with a rope and a bucket on it. That's exactly
Really?
right.
Oh, my word.
And during the winter, you see, that would be frozen over, and we'd put bricks in the bucket and drop it down. Sometimes it took 3 or 4 times to break the ice so we could get some water.
For heaven's sake.
But that was okay, and of course the bucket that had water in it in the kitchen was frozen solid, so we had to light the kerosene stove and let it warm up and melt the ice in the bucket.
So you could have some water.
Word.
So we could have some water to drink. Now, I neglected to mention during the last show that at the age of 11 we did move to Sikeston, Missouri. And there we moved into a duplex, and it had hardwood floors. And
You didn't know what to do with yourself.
and indoor plumbing, and it had central heating. And no, I didn't. You see, I was 11 when we moved to Sikeston, and I was 11 years old before I got to flush the first toilet that belonged to me.
Now that's amazing.
Now, when we moved in, I stood there for about an hour just flushing the toilet.
Oh,
Couldn't
boy.
believe I actually had one. And I'd run my hands across the toilet paper, because we had real toilet paper.
I think we take a lot of that for
We
granted,
do take
don't we?
a lot of that.
Yes, you do.
Boy.
And I remember all of that. And the reason I'm telling people this is because I want them to know that I'm just a fat man, not a fat cat. You know, and
Yeah, but Richard.
and
the
that I
next
grew
part-
up this way, and I know what poverty
Yeah.
is. I picked cotton one summer. An
Okay.
old black gentleman showed me how to pick cotton,
Wow.
and I'll tell you something, that is back-breaking work.
Boy, I can imagine.
And at the age of 13, I moved to Santa Cruz, California, and that became a happy time for me. Just living there next to the beach and going to Branciforte Junior High and Santa Cruz High School. So that's the story of my early years.
Well, then it looks like to me that we really do have a grassroots, homegrown, down in the dirt, American patriot here. And that's
Well,
why we're
I
here. We
like-
want to ask you all kinds of questions about your feelings.
I like to think of myself that way. Now, there are people on the other side of the fence that would say I'm an enemy of this country, but I don't think so.
Why? Why?
Because I don't think liberally like them. They've even started calling themselves progressives. Well, you know, I think they're still liberal in the truest sense of the word.
Yeah, but our forefathers fought so hard for this country. And
Yes, they did. And
they gave their lives and everything.
I did my share. Yes.
Well, you know, Richard, the other night, Biden and Ryan had a debate. Did you happen to watch that?
I did. Watched
you-
every minute of it.
Tell me what you thought of it.
Well, I think that Paul Ryan won the debate. I think that he was more courteous. I think that he was more factual. I think he had the facts on his side.
Uh-huh.
And Barack Obama was asked before Joe Biden went out to debate. He says, "Well, what do you think, what do you think Joe's going to say, Barack?" He says, "Well, I just think Joe's going to go out there and be Joe." And I'm going to take Barack Obama at his word that Joe was Joe. You know, laughing Joe, sneering Joe, heckling Joe, no facts to back him up Joe. And with the moderator, you know, actually leaning more toward him than Paul Ryan because, you know, she was a...
So you're saying he kind of brought the attention to him, right? Okay.
Well,
From the laughing
besides
of
that, Joe Biden showed himself to be the biggest hypocrite that I've seen in politics. The big question came up. Each of you now tell me about your views on abortion. Paul Ryan said, well, with the exception of incest and rape and the mother's health, I don't believe in abortion. See, Paul Ryan and Joe Biden were both Catholics. And then Joe Biden says, well, I accept the tenets of my faith and I live by that, but I will not impose my will upon others. And I thought, well, now wait a minute. Wait a minute. The Catholic Church believes that life begins at conception. So are you telling me that you'll help a little baby that's already born from being mauled or killed or et cetera, in this society? But even though the Catholic Church says that egg at conception is life, it's now a person, that even though you believe in those tenets, you won't help the unborn? You won't help the millions that are aborted every year?
So that was your question in your mind to
In
him.
my
That didn't
mind.
get brought up.
In my mind. And it should have been brought up. It absolutely should have been.
Very interesting.
But it wasn't.
Quite a debate that was.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Were there other main issues that you thought were more important? Or was that the main one for that debate? I didn't have to see
To me, that was the main one for that debate. And then, of course, his absolute denial. We did not know that was a terrorist attack. There is no way. We didn't know. None whatsoever. Nobody told us. Well, I'm sorry. I just can't really believe that, Joe Biden. Snare your way out of that.
Well, so those were the two vice presidents going at it. What about the most recent presidential debate?
Well, that was interesting. What's your thought on that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think Obama did better. He did better because he showed up. How could he not do better?
You mean from the first one?
From the first one.
So you felt that the second
The
one...
first one was not Obama. It was just simply an apparition.
An apparition. I am not here.
He had a little consult with Obama before he came out. He says, all you have to do is stand there and give the same rhetoric we've been giving for the last 4 years, and then say mm-hmm once in a while, and you'll get by just fine. But he didn't get by just fine. The second debate, I thought it was pitiful as well. I thought that Mitt Romney won, hands down. I thought he had the facts on his side. I thought Crowley, well, she interrupted Mitt Romney more than 28 times. And
you counted?
No, that came out afterwards.
It did.
And she only interrupted Barack Obama 9 times. Barack Obama, the way he conducted himself, Romney could ask him a question, and Obama wouldn't even look him in the eye. He would simply say, turn his back and say, not true, Governor Romney, not true.
Didn't have anything to add on top of that.
I don't. Well, his typical rhetoric, which was saying nothing. He knows how to do the politician shuffle, you know, to the left, to the right, to the back.
Do a little dance. Hey, there's 2 other people I know that can do a little dance. Yeah. I've seen it.
You have.
Well, I didn't think too much of the presidential debate, except
What about Romney? How did you feel about how he handled things?
I think he did excellent. Obama is not used to having people question him. And he's not used to having people, hey, stand up and question what he says. And I think Romney did that very effectively. I think when Obama got in his face, Romney stood there. He didn't back down.
What was the percentage? I mean, the viewers.
Well, here's the thing, you know, because Obama showed up and did better than he did the first presidential debate. The overall rating was 37% Obama and 30% Romney, and the other third was undecided. But when it came down to different categories, like the economy, Romney, depending on which poll you want to read, won 70% to 20%. And then the one that favored Obama the most, Romney was 50%, I think, to 34 or 36%. And he beat him in every category. Romney did.
Oh, my.
Beat Obama in every category. And the Gallup poll says the overall percentage now was, I think, Romney was 51 and Obama was 45.
That's as of today?
That was as of last night. Now, it seems to be going in Romney's favor. But I think that Obama has a few aces up his sleeves. He's going to get some help from the Chinese and so forth to help him try to turn things around before the actual election day. But we'll discuss that more next week.
What I would like to ask you, though, what are some of the reasons why you do not like Obama?
Well, it would be easier.
Well, can I interrupt?
Sure.
Before you go into him answering that question, we are going to take a commercial break.
Okay.
And we'll be right back, so keep that question in mind, and we'll be back in a minute.
Thank you, Debbie.
Good idea.
A famous celebrity made a political ad for none other than the anointed one, Barack Obama, implying that the economy is just fine and is humming along. We are $6 trillion more in debt. Hundreds of thousands of people have lost their homes. 23 million people are out of work. Are things really humming along, Morgan? I think not.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. And before we left, Verl, you had an important question that you
Well, I
wanted to
just
tell
wanted to know what were some of the reasons why you don't like President Obama.
Well, it would be much more expedient if you asked me what are some of the reasons you do like him, and I'd sit here in silence for 30 seconds and we could move on.
No
Richard,
comment.
come on.
But to answer the question that you did ask, number one, I was impressed with him when he was campaigning in the first campaign, weren't you?
Oh, absolutely. Good.
Well, I think everybody was.
I think
we were ready to move on.
He had everybody mesmerized.
Yeah.
He was going to do this. He was going to do that. When he got in, he didn't do a single thing for this country that he said he would do. Not one. Not one.
So you kept track of that, huh?
I've kept track of that. I mean, Well, number one, I mean, his area in foreign affairs is absolutely deplorable. The man, in my mind now, in my opinion, okay, is a Muslim, if not literally, philosophically. The individual that tutored him for 20 years over here in Chicago was Jeremiah Wright. He was a former Muslim. I don't know if anybody realizes that. No.
I didn't.
And he has been totally anti-American. And in the first campaign, when they began to link Jeremiah Wright with Barack Obama, he distanced himself as far as he could. Do you remember that?
I do, as a matter of fact.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
And since then, he has shown no willingness to work with Israel at all. As a matter of fact, he's trying to put as much distance between the United States and Israel as possible. And he went around apologizing to the Arab world and bowing to all the leaders. And what he has done in Libya and Egypt, he has removed 2 dictators, granted. Okay, but the one dictator in Egypt supported us. And he replaced it with what? Is life for those people going to be any better? I doubt it. Because the thing that took their place is the Arab Brotherhood, which is radical Islam, and they have linked very closely to themselves to Al-Qaeda. The same thing with Libya, radical Islam, Arab Brotherhood, Al-Qaeda. It didn't stop them from killing our ambassador, did it? Even though we were the primary country that got rid of Muammar Gaddafi. You think of those things. When it comes to energy, nope, he totally cut back on drilling offshore. Almost no drilling offshore at all. He cut back on the number of leases that were granted. All of this was true when Barack Obama, during the second presidential debate, turned his back on wouldn't even look him in the eye, and said, "Not true, Governor, not true. That's false."
You had said something earlier about the pipeline. The oil
well,
one.
The oil pipeline, he vetoed that coming down from Canada. And then he got so much flack from it, he says, okay, I'll approve the bottom half.
Well, what does that mean?
What does that mean?
Yeah, what does that mean?
Well, the bottom half, it means it's not connected to the source. That's what it means to me. That's what it means to a lot of other people out there.
So how does that work? I mean, if you got a bottom half and a top half,
he has no intention of ever building it, in my opinion.
So most people wouldn't even realize that.
And so he's actually turning the Middle East over to radical Islam. He's done it in Libya. He's done it in Egypt. It's about to happen in Syria. The Arab Brotherhood will be the one that takes over with Al-Qaeda. It won't matter to Iran because Syria is presently Iran's ally, but it'll be her ally after the Arab Brotherhood takes over too.
You mentioned brotherhood. Did he ever have a brother? I mean, last week you had talked about that there's been a debate over whether or not Obama was really born in Kenya. And just family and the relations and all that. Can you comment a little bit on that?
If I could hold off on that just a little.
You want to wait?
Yeah.
Okay.
If I could hold off just a short while. But anyway, Obama, in my opinion, is an enemy of the United States. He's either a pathological liar and a sociopath, or he's an enemy of the United States. And either one, you don't want him in the White House.
Well, that's quite harsh.
Yeah.
It is quite harsh, but I believe it's true. You know, the Republicans have been relatively nice about their campaign ads and so forth. Yeah. And the Democrats have been throwing everything at the Republicans but the kitchen sink. And it's time that somebody started throwing back.
So you are the official DART person?
I am.
Okay.
It's like you know, the other day, Chris Matthews, Hardball. I don't know if you've ever watched his show.
I've heard of Chris Matthews, but I haven't ever seen the show.
Well, he plays hardball with the Republicans, softball with the Democrats, and he's soft in the head. He has a political IQ of about 13, and the political common sense that God gave a cockroach.
Pretty bold.
Well, that is pretty bold.
Because he was talking about there's no way that that's a person. at conception. No way. Well, people would disagree with you there, Christopher, including Joe Biden.
Debbie was talking about being born in Kenya. You want to expand on that?
Well, I remember in the first show you had mentioned that, and I just wondered.
Yes, I firmly believe he was born in Kenya. And what Gary Coleman had to say simply confirmed that.
He did a good job.
Yes, I think he did. He became friends with the husband of the woman who was a nurse that was there when Barack Obama was born.
Did you get that? Friends of the husband.
Okay. Well,
and they're so proud of that, you see, that they're building a little statue or monument outside of the hospital. This is where Barack Obama was born.
Really?
Now, you have proud Kenyan folks saying, yeah, he was born here. And then you have Barrack saying, oh, no, not me. I wasn't born there. I was born in Hawaii. Well, his mother was in Kenya and waited too long in her pregnancy for the airlines to let her fly back to Hawaii. Hawaii is where she intended for him to be born. But they wouldn't let her get on the plane. So she ended up having Barrack there, although that was not her intentions. And she flew to Hawaii when Barrack was just a few days old. That is the official story now that's, coming out of the Kenyans, and that Gary seemed to have stumbled upon as well. And I believe that's true. Now, that served him well for the first couple of decades, because he went eventually through Indonesia, via Indonesia, I should say. He went to Hawaii.
And he had a mentor there, didn't he?
Well, yes, he did. He had a mentor, but he got aid as a foreign student. And then he got aid in the continental United States as his colleges as a foreign student. And that is why he sealed his records. Because...
So he was getting the best of the both worlds, so to speak.
Oh, yes. He was having his cake and eat it, too.
I see.
Yes.
I never do that.
I didn't either.
That's interesting.
Now, there's no way to prove he was getting aid as a foreign student because all of his records are sealed, but I firmly believe that is what happened.
Mm-hmm. Well, we talk about the senior Obama as his biological father. Is there any information on that?
That is a credible, circumstantial, what should I say, theory. Okay? That Frank Marshall Davis.
Who's Frank Marshall Davis?
He was the mentor.
He was a communist, card-carrying communist.
Really?
Yes, absolutely.
My word.
And he was a columnist for one of the newspapers in Honolulu. He met Anne, Barack Obama's mother, and they had an affair in 1960. Now, there's a lot surrounding all of this, but we'll, for the sake of brevity, I'll tell the short version.
That's a good idea.
I would think so.
Short's better.
Short is better. And, of course, Frank Marshall Davis could not marry her. Now, you got to remember the time frame. Don't judge it by the morals and the procedures and the cultural acceptance of today. This was 1960, 1961.
Yes, of course.
They were just coming right out of the 50s, and women still wore dresses and when they're mopping their floors on commercials and so forth, And they were expected to, whenever possible, to stay in the home. And, well, you know the era.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about.
I do. Whoop, there goes the flag.
Yeah, that part fell.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, so Frank Marshall Davis could not marry Obama's mother because he was already married and had several kids with her. And so this is where Barrack Sr. comes in. He was there in Hawaii. He wanted to stay. He wanted to get his education, complete that, and a number of reasons surrounding that. But he cut a deal with Frank Marshall Davis. He married Anne, Barack Obama's mother. Married her in February 1961. 6 months later, Barack was born in August of 1961 in Kenya. Okay?
Wow.
Now, as soon as Barrack Jr. was born, They either sent a telegram or they went to Hawaii just when Barrack was just a few days old. And Frank Marshall Davis, who was a columnist, had the wherewithal and the know-how to put Barack Obama's birth in 2 newspapers.
That was smart.
That was smart.
Because they were trying to cover it up.
They were trying to cover it up right from the get-go.
Oh, that
Okay.
was interesting. Interesting.
Now,
Yeah.
Frank Marshall Davis was, in fact, Barack Obama's mentor for the earlier years of his life.
So that's where the mentor
And
came
he
in.
mentored him in the communist philosophy. Now, Frank Marshall Davis had a lot of acquaintances in Hawaii. So that's where Barack Obama ended up, in Hawaii, and he had door after door after door open for him because of Frank Marshall Davis. And that's why he was invited to run for the Senate, and he did, and he was elected. Right after which he went to Hawaii in 2007, I believe it was, as Gary brought this up in his in our interview, that he went over and campaigned for Odinga. He committed another felony there because it's against the law for anybody sitting at the federal level in government to go to another nation and do anything in behalf of another person that's in government and a leader in that nation.
I didn't know that.
Now that's interesting.
It's called the Logan Act. 17, yeah,
he
17.
brought the Logan.
Yes, he
brought
did.
the Logan Act up.
Yes, he did.
That's right.
How about that?
I mean, the reasons that I don't like Barack Obama continue.
But you voted for the man.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about him. Did you know anything about him?
Well, I was impressed.
Other than what he was saying?
Yeah.
He had a good gift to gab. He was a good speaker. I mean, he could
He
pull
was
facts right out
dynamic.
of the air.
Oh, he knew
Could
the
reel
PR
people
skill.
in.
He had that.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you still voted for the man.
I know. I have. I have had certain.
I feel bad about the flag falling
We'll have
down
to fix
back
it.
there.
Would you mind getting up and
With the-
fixing that real quick?
Okay.
Well, we could do that during the break. I think.
Okay, we'll do that. All right.
All right, folks, we're going to take another quick break, and then we'll be back for the next part. So hang in there with us. Thanks.
Laughing Joe Biden, snaring Joe Biden, inaccurate with his facts, interrupting the truth. Is this man capable of anything else? Do we really want this man as president and be faced with an international crisis? After all, the vice president is only one heartbeat away from the presidency.
Hey, welcome back. I don't know if you noticed before, Earl had mentioned our little flag. It kind of fell on down a little bit.
And by the way, why is it upside down? You did comment on it last time, but for those who...
Well, for the sake of those who are not watching today, I want to explain to them that, well, the nation is still in distress. The worst distress it's been in since the Civil War. And displaying the flag upside down is a perfectly respectful legal way to do that. It's in the United States Code. It says simply that any time there is a time of extreme distress or peril, fly the U.S. flag upside down.
It does say that?
It does say that in the code.
Wow, I didn't know that.
I didn't either until I
Wow.
heard about it in the last show.
So we are in distress,
In my
according
opinion,
to
we are.
Richard Logsdon. Okay.
I mean, you look at the nation and the mess that it's in. As far as I'm concerned, Barack Obama is trying to bring this country to its knees.
Well, that's
Which
pretty
takes
harsh,
away
you know.
our God-given free choice and free right with this free country.
Boy, that bothers me.
Why?
It really does.
Well, so Richard, you just got through talking about Barack Obama. Excuse me. What about how you feel about him being an enemy, an actual enemy?
I
of the
believe him to
United
be an
States?
enemy of this country. He's either a pathological liar and a sociopath, or he's an enemy of this country. I believe he's the latter. I believe he's very intelligent. I believe he came to office with an agenda. I believe that agenda differed from everything that he told people
So from the very beginning, when he was reeling people
from
in,
the very
is that-
beginning.
Really?
I mean, look at this country. It's more than $6 trillion in debt that he has borrowed almost exclusively from where? China.
And where does that go? Where has it gone?
Where has it gone? There are hundreds of billions of dollars unaccounted for. Where has it gone?
That's a good question.
That is a
You know,
good question.
I've often
I
asked
mean,
that question.
every attempt to investigate his administration in any way, he blocks and claims executive privilege. He is going over and he is removing the Arab leadership that are our friends one by one and replacing them with the Arab Brotherhood. He supports that. He supports the dissolution of Israel. Now, he'll get up and he'll say some positive things when he speaks, but his actions speak entirely different.
Kind of the old adage.
He's reducing the United States Navy to a point where it was before December 7th, 1941.
When were you there?
And you ought to know because
Yeah,
you come
I was
from the
gonna say, you were
naval
there.
background, don't you?
And, yeah, I was there in Hawaii for a short while.
What was your background with the Navy? I'm curious.
Well, I was a cryptographer.
Uh-huh.
I held a top-secret crypto security
I
clearance.
see.
But the thing of it is, the Iranians are now talking, whom he doesn't care if they get the atomic bomb or not. The Iranians are now talking about doing naval maneuvers off our coast. And
No way.
yes, and then the Chinese, when they get their navy built up a little more, they will be here constantly off our shores. I can see Chinese troops on our shores within 5 years. They certainly would be if Barack Obama stays in for another 4 years. The man does not love this nation. He's not from this nation. He's been taught nothing but communism his whole life.
Well, it's also
And he is bankrupting us. He is moving us to the precipice of total collapse.
Yeah, I've heard from other sources that our country is in worse debt than it ever has been.
That it
in
ever
the
has
history of the
been.
United States.
Ever has been. So yes, I think Barack Obama is an actual enemy of this country.
What about the job situation?
Well, it's terrible.
'Cause that's
There
part of
again,
this.
you know, he's going around politically defecating down people's throats. And then so many of them are saying, good, give me some more.
Well, I don't think our country, our mentality is that way. I think.
But they believe him. There are still too many people that believe him.
I see.
Okay, let's talk about the middle class.
All right.
All right, he's going to reduce the Marine Corps by 20,000, the Army by 100,000, the Air Force by 300 cargo planes, the Navy, the smallest since before World War II.
Is it really?
And he has gone to the industrial complex in this country that builds all of those things. And see, by law, they're supposed to give them a 90 days notice, the employees, before they're fired.
Uh-huh.
And he's going to them and saying, no, don't say anything until after the election. If you get into any problems, I'll use taxpayer money to hire attorneys to defend you.
That what it's doing.
That's what he's doing.
Oh, my word.
Now, that's
Right now?
right now, that's 1 million people. 1 million people within just a couple of 3 months after he takes office for a second time, if reelected,
That
will
doesn't
lose their
include all
jobs.
the people that have lost their jobs the last 4 years.
No, it doesn't. It will add another million. And guess where that million's going to come from?
Oh, we know.
From the middle class.
From the middle class.
And who's going to get taxes raised?
Obviously.
The middle class.
Uh-huh.
He has to destroy the middle class in order to implement the kind of government in this country that he wants to implement.
Oh, that doesn't sound good.
But it's almost following history because it's always been the middle class that seems
In
to
any
keep
country
things
where the
going. They
middle
just-
class is
yeah.
the majority of the population, you have what? Democracy.
Mm-hmm.
When the middle class is non-existent, you have a dictatorship.
Seems to be the pattern, doesn't it?
It does. That's why
Boy, that's strange.
that shows.
And another thing is, to my knowledge, there has never been a war between two democracies.
I
Never thought of that. Richard, we were talking about Libya. What is, you want to expand a little more about the Libyan relationship
I'll make a
there?
comment on Libya.
Would you mind?
A comment. We get a comment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Number one, on the day of the murder, that's what it was. And I think just by our own government as much as Al-Qaeda.
The day of the murder. Can you expound a
What do
little
you
bit
mean?
for people that don't know?
What do you mean by
Well,
that?
our ambassador was murdered.
Okay.
Two Navy SEALs was murdered. A fourth individual was murdered. I've just heard him referred to as a fourth individual. Poor guy doesn't even have a name. You know, and all of the other nations had already closed their embassy and consulate and moved out. Except the United States, the lone foreign flag flying. There were even Al-Qaeda flags flying all throughout the city.
In Libya?
In Libya.
No way.
Benghazi, yes.
Oh my goodness.
And the Arab Brotherhood, they didn't come in and offer any protection.
No, they did not.
Are they doing anything about that?
Well, they begged them to do something about it. They begged them for more security, and they responded by taking 2 security teams out.
That's how they responded.
That's how they responded. Hillary Clinton is now running around, much to her chagrin, saying that the buck stops here. Well, the buck stops with the President of the United States. Hillary, I'm sorry, you're not that important. But you were important enough to see that security in Benghazi was established. And the best way to see that security in Benghazi was established was to remove our people. That is the best way. And now they're running around, and have been running around until just recently, saying that they didn't know what was going on. That was Joe Biden's words. He didn't know what was going on. Do you ever know anything, Joe Biden?
But what's sad is there's most people. How do you feel about most people in the United States? I mean, isn't that the reason that you're doing what you're doing right now?
I am.
Is to
I'm putting in
help
my.
to inform?
I am putting in my 2 cents worth to help inform the people.
And that's
Well,
your right.
It
That's-
is.
I mean, you
If
have
this
freedom of
material
speech.
that you've been discussing is all documented, it should be out to the people. They really need to know.
Well, they can get online and go.
Well, they can learn
look on
everything
the
that I-
Logan Act.
they-
Yeah, get on.
They can get on and look at the Logan Act. Gary was there. He saw Barack Obama in person. He's an eyewitness. They can look at the Logan Act. They can dig that up on the internet.
On the internet.
As far as all the Libyan information, all you have to do is watch the news and get on the internet for that. As far as all of the things that Barack Obama has done in the 4 years that he's been in office, that's readily available, and I'm sure that there's so much more that I haven't uncovered. It's pitiful.
So if we won't be so lax and take the initiative to find out for ourselves.
There was an old poem
That's a
that
good point.
I ran across 40 years ago. It was called "Let George Do It."
Let George. Let George do it.
By the way, that's my first name.
He's a George.
I know that.
Well, you know,
And it said simply, don't worry about going to political meetings. Don't worry about reading the newspaper. Let George do it. It goes through this whole list of things, which should be everyone's responsibility, but let George do it. And down at the bottom it says, oh, by the way, I'll bill you later.
Oh goodness.
well, that's a good ending, I guess.
Well, do you feel like what you're sharing? Do you feel like the American people, and I hate to bring this up or say it, but they have gotten like they don't care, or they're lax, or they're so
They're
caught up in everyday
They're
life.
caught up with the things of this world, but
Things
they
of the
won't take
world.
the time to study what's going on with their own country, with their
You know,
own
if they
freedom.
would just take 2 hours a week to spend on their country or local city government or state government, just 2 hours a week. Go to a PTA meeting. You don't have to be a member of the PTA. You don't have to be a leader in it. But you go and you
So
go.
get involved, in
Get
other words.
involved.
Get
Yeah.
involved with serving your
Once
country
we're all
in some
set
way.
back, just let everybody else take care of the problem. I'm not concerned about it.
That's what
but
they're
we
doing.
need to get involved, right?
And there are too many people in this country. Well, I've retired now. I'm taking my RV and I'm going to sit back and And during the whole time in all their working years, they weren't spending any time in behalf of their local or county or state or federal government. No time at all.
No participation.
And I think we're down. Yes, we do. This is a choice. It's a referendum and a choice. And the referendum is what Barack Obama has done to this country for the last 4 years. If people would take the time to get on the internet and look it up. And the choice is simply this: destruction as a country as we know it, and have Barack Obama's America. And there's a movie out explaining that.
There is.
Yes, there is.
Do you know what it's called?
Yeah, Obama's America.
It's really called that?
Yes.
Have you heard that?
No, I have not.
Most people haven't, but it was in the local theaters here for, I think, over a month.
It shows you how often I go to the movie theater.
Well, people don't take time out for that.
But do we want a communistic government? Do we want Islam to be prominent in this nation? He gets up at every opportunity and defends Islam, but he doesn't defend Christianity. He doesn't defend our nation and the right of free speech. He spent 7 or 8 days harping on that terrible video. Now, I've got to admit, I haven't seen that video. But I intend to go home and look it up on YouTube and see exactly what it says. So what? So what if it criticizes? So what? It's his right. It's free speech.
Yeah,
no one said anything when that one artist had Christ standing on his head in a tub of urine.
That's right. This whole country has free speech, just like you have your free speech
We should go up in arms over that.
Yeah.
Yeah, terrible.
That's...
Well, it's time for us to really think about our freedom, if we really value that, and study on our own of what's going on in our country.
And as far as Mitt Romney, if the country can be fixed at all, I think he will do it. Or if
I think he has the intention and the desire, whether
yes, he
he's
does.
allowed to do that will be another story.
And I think he has the intelligence as well.
Yeah.
Now he's going to be bucked by people in the Senate. Harry Reid, which is the most pitiful individual in the Senate, I find it difficult to even stomach that guy. He gets up and says that Mitt Romney is not a good representative of his faith. He gets up and says that Mitt Romney should be ashamed of himself. Well, Harry Reid is the one who should be ashamed.
And why do you say that?
Yeah.
Well, because of what he's doing and what he's saying.
So he's not representing...
No.
I don't think many people know what Harry Reid is saying.
No.
No.
Like everything else, many people probably don't. Anyway, that is my take.
Well, I have one last question. You mentioned a book that was written, or a biography on Obama, and that if he had a choice to choose between being a U.S. citizen or American citizen, or
being Christian or being
Christian
Muslim,
or
that came from the dreams of my father. And he said outright, I will choose Islam. I will choose the Muslims.
And that's right in the
Now,
book.
do I have anything wrong, anything against the Muslim religion in and of itself? No, absolutely not.
Of course not.
If they want to come over and they want to, and send out missionaries or try to attract converts in other ways, that's fine. And they're welcome to build their mosque right down on the church or a street corner along with every other church. But if I've got to look behind my back all the time, wondering if they're going to slit my throat or if they're going to blow my kids up, that's not acceptable. And the mainstream Muslim community in this nation should denounce the extremists.
Everybody should.
I mean,
we've given them the right and the opportunity and the freedom to come and be here. This is our free country.
Barack Obama says this is a Muslim nation, not a Christian. Even though it's 86% Christian to 76%, depending on which tabloid you read and which poll. The Muslims make up less than 1%. But he justifies his statement by saying that's 3 million people. That's more Muslims here than some countries, some Muslim countries have. which is true. There again, he's not looking at the big picture. He's not looking out for the welfare of this nation.
Well, thank you for inviting Debbie and me to
Well, and I understand you're going to be back next week.
Well, in a
All
couple
right.
weeks anyway. We're trying to get geared up for our show, and we're going to be talking about various things like family relations. We're going to talk about preparedness, things like that. It'll be fun. And
Yeah.
health.
Help and
Yeah.
modalities to help people learn how to.
Well, that'll be
Help
good.
yourself.
Next week, the subject will be foreign affairs. Let's see how well Barrack has really done there.
We wish you well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else to summarize, or Richard will
Well,
summarize?
the
when we
thing
come
that I
back?
want to summarize at this point is, may God bless all of you out there. May God bless America, and may God bless the United States.
I agree with that.
Thank you.